It's 3 a.m. in Havana, and the lights go out again. Not for minutes, but for hours. Entire neighborhoods fall into darkness, refrigerators stop humming, fans go silent in the suffocating heat. And for millions of Cubans, this isn't an exception anymore. It's routine. But what's happening in Cuba right now isn't just another economic crisis. It's something deeper, something that's quietly reshaping the balance of power far beyond the island. For decades, Cuba has survived on a fragile system: state control, limited private enterprise, and a constant struggle against external pressure, especially from the United States. But today, that system is cracking in ways we haven't seen since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The economy is shrinking, inflation is spiraling, and basic goods, fuel, food, even medicine, are increasingly hard to find. Long lines stretch for hours outside stores that may not even have anything left by the time you reach the door. And then there's the blackouts. Nationwide, unpredictable and growing longer each month, driven by a crumbling energy infrastructure and severe fuel shortages. But here's where it changes. This isn't just a story about scarcity, it's about movement. Over the past 2 years, Cuba has experienced one of the largest migration waves in its history. Hundreds of thousands of people have left the island, many risking everything to reach the United States through Central America, creating ripple effects across the entire region. Countries like Mexico are overwhelmed, U.S. border policies are under pressure, and the crisis is no longer contained within Cuba. It's reshaping migration patterns across the Western Hemisphere. At the same time, the Cuban government is navigating a delicate geopolitical tightrope. With limited economic options, Havana has been strengthening ties with countries like Russia and China, seeking investment, energy support, and political backing. Russia, dealing with its own global tensions, sees Cuba as a strategic foothold just 90 miles from the U.S. coastline, a reminder that Cold War dynamics never fully disappeared, they just evolved. Meanwhile, China's growing influence in Latin America adds another layer, as infrastructure deals and financial support quietly expand its presence on the island. And yet, inside Cuba, the pressure continues to build. Protests, once rare and quickly suppressed, have become more frequent and more visible, fueled by frustration, hunger, and a sense that the system is no longer working. The government has responded with a mix of concessions and control, allowing limited private businesses while tightening political restrictions, trying to stabilize a situation that feels increasingly unstable. What makes this moment even more fragile is the psychological shift happening within the country. For years, many Cubans endured hardship with the belief that conditions would eventually improve, or at least stabilize. That expectation is fading. A growing number of people no longer see a future on the island at all. Families are being split across borders, entire communities are losing their younger generations, and the social fabric itself is beginning to thin. This isn't just an economic collapse, it's a slow erosion of belief, of patience, of identity. But here's the twist, the part that most people miss. Cuba is no longer just a symbol of resistance or isolation. It's becoming a pressure point in a much larger global equation. In a world where supply chains are shifting, alliances are being redefined, and geopolitical tensions are rising, even a small island can carry outsized importance. Migration flows influence elections. Strategic partnerships influence military positioning. Economic instability creates openings for global rivals. Cuba, in its current state, sits at the intersection of all of it. If you want to keep uncovering what's really happening behind the headlines, subscribe to Cuba Explained. Leave a like and stay with us. Because the stories shaping this island today are far bigger than they seem, and we're just getting started. And that's why this moment matters. Because what happens in Cuba doesn't stay in Cuba. It moves through people, through politics, through power. The outages in Havana echo in Washington. The shortages ripple into regional instability. And the decisions made behind closed doors in Havana, Moscow, or Beijing could quietly shape the future of influence in the Americas. So the real question isn't just what's happening in Cuba right now, it's what happens next. Will the island find a path to stability, or will it become the center of a new geopolitical shift that the world isn't fully prepared for?